Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. My name is Alakunle Kasumo, and it's great to be on this show where we discuss all things books. I'm sure you keep your eyes on the news. Every single day, one news or another just pops out, whether local or international, and just get us thinking and at times worried what's happening in our world. Well, there is this news dated July 30th, 2025, federal government, NDLEA partner to introduce drug education in school curriculum. So, drug education in school curriculum, that's a good one. Now, a lot of people don't realize the kind of crisis that we are in when it comes to drugs. Some people are just not aware of how bad, how problematic it is in this country. And so this is a good one, drug education. I like the fact drug education, awareness, enlightenment, education. I think it's very important for parents, teachers, everybody to be educated on the drug issue. Very, very important. It's affecting so many young people out there. Not just young people, everybody. Now, there's this book. If we're talking about drug education, then whoever is listening out there, they've got to pay attention to this book titled Shattered Dreams, The True Cost of Drug Abuse by Olu Onobolu. Now, this is a book that is very, very important. It's very vital, in my opinion. For somebody who was not so aware about drugs in the past, it was just eye-popping. It just opened my eyes. I said, what? Do we have... It's a problem that's serious in Nigeria. I mean, this book helped me to see that. Shattered Dreams, The True Cost of Drug Abuse. And let me just read something interesting that you may not be aware of from here. In page X, 10, did you know that there are 14.3 million, there were 14.3 million drug users in Nigeria in 2017. Let me just read that. According to the 2018 National Drug Use Survey conducted by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, an estimated 14.3 million Nigerians aged between 15 and 64 used drugs in 2017. Wow. Now, this represents about 14.4% of the population, a rate significantly higher than the global average of 5.6%. That's mind-blowing. That's alarming. So, 14.3 million Nigerians aged 15 and 64, between age 15 and 64, used drugs in 2017 in Nigeria. It's mind-blowing, really. And in this same book, you get to know what kinds of drugs are being abused out there. Cocaine, of course, popular. Heroin, popular. Methamphetamine, popular. Codeine, synthetic drugs, and so on. So many things here with statistics and figures, what's happening in Nigeria, particularly, and how young people can get out of some of these problems, these drug-related problems. So, good one there, drug education in Nigeria, and this is one to look out for. Shattered Dreams, The True Cost of Drug Abuse. Well, let's move from drugs to brighter things. The long list for the 2025 Nigeria Prize for Literature, as you know, is out. 11 great books written by 11 brilliant writers. Now, recently, the long-listed authors were hosted at the annual CORA NLNG book party. Enjoy this.
February 2025, the Advisory Board for the Nigeria Prize for Literature, sponsored by Nigeria LNG, called for entries for this year's edition of the prize, marking the start of the annual competition. The genre for this year's $100,000 prize is prose fiction. Following the receipt of 252 entries in April, 11 authors were longlisted in July. To celebrate this achievement, the Committee for Relevant Art, CORA, in collaboration with LNNG, hosts the long-listed authors, their friends, families, and literature enthusiasts to the 16th edition of the CORA NPL Book Party.
While we produce energy to support power in homes, we also believe stories power hope. In the past 20 years, the Literature Prize has ignited dreams. It sharpens critical thinking and inspired a new generation of Nigerian writers, now stepping onto the global literary stage. The Nigeria Prize for Literature continues to give visibility, validation, and encouragement to stories that might otherwise be unheard, and the world is thereby reminded that Nigeria too has voices that matter.
The long-listed authors, joining both virtually and in person, share insights into their works.
It's something to grieve, someone that you are close to and that you were and that you had a good connection with. But when we lose people that, let's say, we have fought with or that we haven't spoken to in a while or are estranged from, that's a different kind of grief. So I really wanted to explore that, and that in a way is one of the things that's explored in the story.
It just reminded me of when my mom lost my dad. So the grief on the faces of the people captured in the papers was very touching, and I decided to write about the insecurity going on in the country that has persisted, till present day. So yeah, then I wrote about a girl who died, and that was just like the beginning of the novel. So it started with a short story.
At the end of the day, we thrive, we strive, and when it's all over, when the race is over, nobody cares about, what your race is, what your gender. Nobody really cares about that, right? We just end up being bones. Yeah. So that was kind of like the trigger, to do a story that touches on identity, to do a story that questions our humanity, to do a story that questions what borders and boundaries really, really mean to all of us.
I am an Anang person, a proud Anang person. There are like 40 other tiny minority groups that were in Biafra. We suffered a lot. Biafra came into minority lands for 8 months in some places. It was very bad. Nobody knew what we went through. So it's become very, very painful. And I thought, okay, this is something I may be able to, to handle.
Last year, I came across the Mackin report, which tells a story about an Anglican priest that physically and sexually molested kids in the UK. And in the process, he did something called baptism. He drowned some of the kids and killed them. So the church kind of protected him. So he fled down to Africa. So while he was in Africa, he moved around a bit and settled in Zimbabwe, repeating the same act. He fled again and fled to Zimbabwe, then later moved to South Africa, and that was the last everybody heard of him. But the families were seeking for justice. So imagine something that happened in the mid-70s, and they didn't get justice until 2024. So by the time they got justice in 2024, and they found the man, they were supposed to extradite him back to the UK, he died mysteriously. So that is what spurred the idea of me telling the story about a young boy in Petrichor, Jola, who got a scholarship into school, and with the hopes that he's going to do great in life. But surprisingly, he runs into the hands of an Anglican reverend who molests him and all that. I really want everybody to get the book and read it.
It is necessary to tell an African mythology or the African story for the sake of for future generations. I live here in the UK. I've lived through United States. I've lived through the United Kingdom with children, with all 5 of my children who do not even understand or do not yet have that knowledge about our rich African culture.
Yeah.
And I believe that for us to be able to keep safe it for the next generation, even the future generation and present generation, is through African storytelling.
I think I've been lucky in the sense that when I'm writing, my characters tend to write themselves, and all I am is just a conduit for them. Because I think that when you're not writing your characters truthfully, it shows on paper. It shows when the readers are reading them. They don't read like human beings. So yeah, one of the biggest challenges was just writing characters that I cannot stand.
Everything in the book is real. It actually did happen. The Biafran war against Nigeria was one of the major conflicts of the 20th century. And I think that it deserves to have its own war fiction.
I wanted to explore my 2 homes. I'm half Nigerian, I'm half British, but I'm also fully Nigerian and fully British. And I wanted to explore identity, belonging, class, culture, but mainly prejudice and privilege, because I've experienced both of these things in both my homes.
Essentially, I wanted to write a universal story, and I think Babies is a universal story. It's a woman standing on the precipice of adulthood, questioning her purpose, which could take place anywhere over the world, anywhere around the world, but also in an unfamiliar setting, and thereby deal with some of the issues that people growing up in these communities would face.
It became the story of Yerima Lalo, who remembers suddenly that he had been killed twice before, and then he decides, you know what, I am full of hate for the people who do this things to me, and I'm going to go find them and do horrible things to them. And then he goes and he discovers that not everything is as black as white as he thought at first. So for me, it's just a story that is exploring that relationship between love and hate and the complexities of all the things that go between the two diametrically opposed phenomena.
In his closing remarks, CORA board chair Kayode Aderioku celebrates the authors on reaching the milestone.
Writing a book is not a spectator sport. You have to lock yourself up, isolate yourself. Sometimes, occasionally, even starve yourself for your brain to work. So for them to even put their thoughts together, put it on paper or put it on the computer and come up with a wholesome, credible product, I think they should be celebrated.
Attendees also speak on the quality and depth of the long-listed works.
Listening to the authors, all of them speak about the story, I can say categorically, as I was pointing out to the person next to me, that these writers are wonderful people. They've done exceedingly excellent. Why did I say that? They were able to capture the reality, the essences of the Nigerian society.
The authors, their writings are fluid and interesting. I walked into a bookshop and bought about 5 different books on the long list, and I tend to read them. The books they are what's been on the list, because when you read them, the fluidity, the experience of the writer, and the writing style, it's what's been on the long list.
The short list of 3 authors will be announced shortly, before a final winner is unveiled at the Grand Award Night on October 10th.
11 books, 11 authors. There will be down to 3 very soon. That's the way it goes with the Nigeria Prize for Literature. Join us on this show. We'll be announcing the 3 shortlisted books and shortlisted writers, and then eventually the winner of the big prize, $100,000. Whew. I can do with that right now. That's about 150 million or 160 million or whatever the exchange rate is these days. That's a lot of money. Look out on the show as we keep track of that all-important story. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie has been around town promoting her latest novel, Dream Counts. The book has been having rave reviews up and down, and people are eager to read Chimamanda's latest novel. I mean, when Chimamanda writes, people want to read, of course. Well, we were there when she had a discussion with one of our very own, Ebuka, about Dream Counts and things related. Enjoy this.
It's been 13 years. It's been 13 long, painful years for a lot of us who are fans of your work. I mean, you were giving us crumbs in between. Small short stories here and all of that. But, you know, for a long time, wondered if or when it would happen. And I was reading the author's notes at the end of Dream Counts, and you talked a lot about Kadiatu and how that sort of informed your writing, or at least influenced some of the work this time. We'll get to that later, but I want to talk about what made Dream Count happen. At what point did it happen? Was there a moment, or were you just writing and realized, oh, I'm actually now writing a book?
You know, honestly, I think my mother just helped me to write the book that had been in my head for years. I think I really felt my mother's spirit. My mother was a fiercely protective mother. You know, my mother was a person who, my father read everything I wrote. My mother read maybe one or two. But she would tell everybody, her books are the best in the world. She would go everywhere with half of the Yellow Sun in her bag when it was first published. And apropos nothing, she'd bring it up. My daughter's new novel, half of the Yellow Sun. So I really just feel that, you know, my mother left so unexpectedly. You know, and I think that I just feel that she helped me, that her spirit guided me. And so because of that, the book is not about my grief. If anything, it's about a door that had been closed to my creativity that my mother helped open. I don't even think, I'm not ready yet to write about losing my mother. It's still too painful. So I don't even think I could write anything about grief now.
Let's go into Dream Counts now, and the theme for this. I know you said you always wanted to write about women next. That's fine. But the theme that came together was by surprise. Love, or sometimes the lack of it even, in the book, and you know, just vulnerability, like you said, emotions. Why that? Like you said, you had done other things. Yes, Americana had some love and romance in it, but this felt completely about, you know, relationships, love, emotions, and all of that. Why did you decide to go there?
I don't know. That's how the book came to me. And I have to tell you, Buka, that one of the things for me, at least, about writing fiction is I have to make up answers to a lot of the questions. There's a journalist outside who kept saying to me, tell us more about the theme. And, you know, elaborate on the theme. I thought this kind of literature class approach to novels is not really something that creatives want to do. I think which is why I think there's a difference between being a creative and being a critic. I don't always have the answers. I don't always have the whys. There's an almost spiritual aspect to writing fiction, at least for me. So there are things in the novel that surprised me. So I kind of thought the novel would go in a certain direction. It didn't. Did I plan to have it be so deeply about emotion and love? And I'm not even sure. I just, you know, your characters speak to you, you're in there, you're writing, you forget time. It's almost magical. When you look up, you don't realize how much time has passed. I mean, this is the thing. This is why fiction is the love of my life. Like, it gives me meaning. But I don't, it feels in some ways like a gift. I did not make it myself. It was given to me. But the choice I made was to use it. So I can't entirely explain to you why. It's what it is.
The characters, Chiamaka, Zikora, Kajetu, and Omeloko. Why these stories from these people? And they were so different but yet so connected in a very interesting way. And it was interesting for a lot of us, I think, to see a book that had sort of 4 parts. You read this and then you stop and you start another person's journey, but it also at the end made sense. Why write it that way and why were these characters the way they were?
And I actually wrote it in that way. So I wrote it in the way that it is in the book. I think because I wanted to have different voices. But you know what, I don't want to, I feel that it was cowardly of me, your last question. So I think I need to respond, which, okay, so was it me saying America do better? Yes. So the wonderful thing about fiction, of course, is that when you get past those really deeply, almost spiritual moments when the characters are leading you, and I've always felt that the novel is greater than the novelist. But there are also moments when you're just a novelist and you decide to sneak in your own things. And I did that in a novel about 4 places. I won't tell you the other 3. But one of them is especially the scene with American academia, about American academia, which, of course, I know a bit about, because it's a world that I inhabited for a while. And yes, I think that there's a part of me that just wants it to be better. I think a lot of my critical views about most things really come from love. They come from, it's something I care about and I want it to be better. You know, going to a liberal arts college in the US was really one of the highlights of my life. I felt so grateful to be able to study. You know, after secondary school in Osaka, science class, you know, and I did well, but I was so bored. Biology bored me to death. I mean, you know, God bless you all biologists here. And you know, then I started studying medicine, and I was so bored. And then going to the US, suddenly I could take classes in philosophy, in politics, in history, and I just loved that. And I think that American liberal arts kind of structure I loved. But something is changing in American academia. It's closing, it's becoming smaller. So yes, it came from, you know, I really want them to do better. Because it's a good thing, they have a good thing, and it just feels to me that America is overseeing its own decline. And it's sad to watch, you know.
You're welcome.
I don't know if there are any, Americans, yeah. I mean Americans, I don't mean Nigerian Americans. Because Nigerian Americans all understand what I'm saying. Some Americans, sorry.
So back to the question I asked about the characters and you know, why them and why write it in the way you did?
Why them? Again, this is what I don't know. I'm new to Omeloko. I adore Omeloko. And I think there's always an Omeloko version in my head.
Who is my favorite, by the way?
Is she? Good.
Is she yours? Team Omeloko.
I'm happy to see that, actually. I thought Nigerian. Okay, what about cheer? Let's do a cheer.
Please. She needs to do better in life. She needs to make better choices. I'm still very upset. You know, I kept reading, I'm like, maybe at the end, Chuka will come back. Chuka is married.
Wait. You see the problem I'm having with you people now? Someone cannot dream again.
No. And this is the second time. We're still looking for Kainene.
And this is where we have to end the show today. As always, we'll be delighted to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. My name is Olakunle Kasumu. Remember, one great book can change your life.